Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting. Is there any declarations of interest?
Yeah, can I declare an interest?
Andy?
In page 26, the reference, sorry about the clock, the reference 210003 FUL, the residential development in Mill Road, Arlington. I know two of the objectors here. So I'd just like to declare that.
Mark?
Same declaration for Bob Burgess, Chair. Exactly the same as Sandy.
And same declaration for Trevor Douglas as well. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Mark Hamill and see, do you need to declare it now just because you know somebody that's objecting?
Yeah, that would be good to know. Yeah.
Mark, are you on?
Yeah, thanks, convener. I think the objective test for elected members is to determine whether they could take part in decision making in terms of the planning application. It wouldn't be unusual, given the amount of planning applications that are dealt with by the committee, that indeed the elected members would know those that were making representations, whether it be for or against. That wouldn't stop them from making a declaration, but the objective test would be from each of the elected members as to whether they feel they could make a decision.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think I could make a decision. I think from my point of view, it's sufficiently remote that I could still make a decision.
Okay, right, Sandy. What about Trevor and Bob?
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, okay. Trevor?
It's closer to connected to me, so I will remove myself off it as a family member, so just...
Okay, right, that's fine. Thank you. Any apologies, Mark?
Yeah, we've got apologies from councillors Anderson, Councillor Graham and Councillor McKendrick.
Okay, thank you. I'll go straight to the plan application, agenda item 2. And the first one is pages 9 to 17, Mr. Patrick Riley. And it's an extension to operating time period for a waste transfer station and aggregate manufacturing facility for demolition, construction waste and revised restoration scheme. It's Drumcable Quarry, Glenboig Road, Glenboig. Recommendation is grant.
Great.
Agreed. Pages 18 to 25, 2 new light industrial units, and it's a site of Biomac Garage, Glasgow Road, Uddingston, and recommendation is grant.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Pages 26 to 55, residential development of 61 dwelling houses, including changes to levels. 173 Mill Road, Arlington, Shotts. Recommendation is refused. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Harry, can I say something? Although it's not my area, I know people up Arlington, and they're pretty concerned about what the amenities they've lost before, the likes of the post office, but they've got that back again, and the school is under capacity as well, and they think this sort of development with affordable and social housing up there would be a benefit to the village of Arlington, because at the end of the day, I know they want to keep the village in a rural village, but at the end of the day, these villages are like, say, Chapel Hall, Glenboig and that are all getting extended anyhow, and the fact is, if we don't keep the people from moving away from these villages, the villages are going to die, because Arlington, I heard, is on its knees, and the fact is, I think this should be given a wee bit more consideration, this application, if you know what I mean.
Okay, I've got a question from Sophia Coyle, is that correct?
Yes, Harry, thanks very much. Was there a detailed site visit carried out, Harry, can I ask a committee? Because it looks as if it could be a brownfield site. His foundation's probably still there for the sewage works. So it's just a question why obviously it's getting refused, because if it's not a greenfield site and there was foundations still there from the sewage works, it's just, was there a detailed site visit carried out there?
Right, I'll get that question answered for you. Is it Lindsay?
Yeah, that's me. Yes, there's obviously been previous uses on the site, but if you look at paragraph 8.59, one of the responses there, we consider the site to be greenfield. I mean, sites can be brownfield and turn into greenfield over time, whether it's through intervention or just through natural regeneration. So we're satisfied that this can be properly classified as a greenfield site. And yes, certainly there was a site visit carried out as well.
Okay. Any other comments or questions before I go
Harry,
to the
Harry,
decision?
well, sorry, just a supplementary here. I see that they've got social and affordable housing. Now, as far as I'm seeing in the paperwork here, they're 22. Now, that's more than a third of the houses that's proposed. So I can't see, you know what I mean? I can't see anything wrong with this at all.
Are you moving Grant, Michael?
I move granting that I on that
Okay.
basis.
Can we have a seconder?
I'm saying that just from the answers that Lindsay had given there, obviously with it being a previous different use.
Okay. The motion is that we refuse because it's contrary to the North Lanarkshire local plan, and I'll get a seconder for that. I'll move that motion.
I'll second that, Harry.
Right, thanks. We've got the amendment is to grant, and your reason for grant, sorry, Michael, just for the minute.
Is the economic benefit to Arlington Village.
Right, okay. Right, can we go straight to the vote then, Mark?
Yeah, thanks, convener. So just to reiterate, the motion is to refuse the application. The amendment is to grant the application. So Councillor Anderson is an amendment. So Councillor Beveridge,
Refuse.
Councillor Burgess,
Motion.
Councillor Michael Coyle,
Amendment.
Councillor Sophia Coyle,
Grant.
okay, Councillor Curran,
Motion.
Councillor Douglas.
He's declared an interest.
Yeah, he's declared an interest. Thank you, convener, for reminding me of that. Councillor Goldsack.
You're on mute. You're on mute, councillor. Still can't hear you.
I think that's you, Councillor Goldsack. You're off mute. I'll come back to Councillor Goldsack.
Amendment.
Oh, amendment.
Amendment.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Got that, Councillor Goldsack.
Amendment. Amendment.
Councillor Johnston.
Amendment.
Councillor Kelly.
Amendment.
Councillor Kelly's not on the meeting. Councillor Lennon.
Mark, sorry, I've just arrived. I don't know what the vote's for, so I'm going to abstain.
That's
Okay.
fine. Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Councillor Logue.
Motion.
Councillor McGregor. I don't see Councillor McGregor on the meeting. Councillor McGowan.
Amendment.
Councillor McKendrick is an apology. Councillor McLaren.
He's on earlier.
Motion.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillor McManus.
Amendment.
Councillor McPake.
Motion.
Councillor McVeigh.
Motion.
Councillor Quigley.
Motion.
Councillor Redding.
Motion.
Councillor Shields.
Motion.
Councillor Stubbs,
Amendment.
and finally Councillor Watson.
Motion.
Motion. Thank you. The motion has attracted 11 votes. The amendment has attracted 7 votes, and there has been 1 abstention. So the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Johnson, were you wanting in? Sorry. Councillor Johnson, you're on mute.
No.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Councillor Johnston.
Okay, we'll move on to the next application. Pages 50, 60, 60 is ID Meeklam Trust. It's approval of matters specified in conditions 1, 20, 22, 24, 25, 26, 31, 32 of application for a phase 2 of the Moss End International Rail Freight Park related to engineering works for the construction of 3 platforms, associated access and landscaping, Moss End Railhead, Rima Road, Bellsill. Recommendations grant. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Pages 61 to 74, Christ and self-storage, siting of a storage containers for self-storage facility along with admin office, reuse of existing class 5 industrial unit for storage and distribution use, new access and landscaping. Recommendation is refused. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Pages 75 to 89, residential development, facility retail, open space, landscaping, self-access, associated works and demolition. That's from North Lanarkshire Council. It's site at 150 Buckshaw Bray, Gowthrappel. Recommendation is grant.
Agreed.
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 Pages 90 to 104. PWWS and trustees of the late Miss Isabella Dennison Meeklam. Proposed residential development, 188 units, included infrastructure and landscaping, ANCSC for conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Site between Canberra Road and the M8, Canberra Coatbridge, and the recommendation is grant. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
And now we'll get the pages that are missing. Sandy. Pages 105 to 110. It's LJR Properties Coatbridge. The change of use of the first floor from part to class 1 retail use to class 2 gym. And recommend it's a DW Sports Fitness, Coatbag Stream, Coatbridge, and the recommendation is grant. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Mrs. Julia Armstrong, use of land for 2 chalet pitches, touring caravan pitch and amenity block with associated fencing. It's a section 42 application for removal of condition 1 of permission to make permission permanent with the amended layout and details. The Lodge, Craig Ends Road, Airdrie. Recommendation is grant.
Agreed.
Agreed. Next application, pages 115 to 124, GS Brown Construction Limited. It's a mixed-use development comprising Class 3 food and drink, Class 7 hotel, Class 11 assembly and leisure, Class 1 ancillary retail and sui generis, roadside fuel, electric charging, hot food takeaway, public bar, with associated infrastructure, drainage, ground treatment, landscaping. Section 42 application to amend condition 15 and 16 of previous planning permission. Land south of junction at Lancaster Avenue, Bellside Road, Chapel Hall. Could I ask the officer to speak to this one, Lindsay, before we decide?
Yep, thanks, convener. It's just quite a simple matter. We had consulted Transport Scotland on application, and they had asked for details of drainage and a boundary treatment to be conditioned as part of the permission, which we have done. But what they've done is they've asked that their name be specifically stated on the planning conditions as people that we would actually consult once the details are submitted, which we would have done anyway, but they're just looking for some further reassurance. So it was just to ask that the conditions make reference to Transport Scotland on conditions 1, 1, 6 and 7.
Okay. Is that agreed? Recommendations, Grant?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Great. Pages 125 to 134, Mr. Alan Wilson, alteration to site levels, amendment to planning permission, land at Ballochny Road, Plains. The recommendation is Grant.
Agreed.
Pages 135 to 142, Mr. Wasim Ahmed, retail unit, hair and beauty salon and associated parking, Capos Hotel, 800 Old Edinburgh Road, Uddingston, and the recommendation is Grant.
Agreed.
Agreed.
And finally, pages 143 to 148, it's a Mr. and Mrs. G. Clarkson, erection of a timber log double garage, 1 Troon Gardens, Westerwood, Cumbernauld. The recommendation is Grant. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
So I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, Terry.
Yeah, it was just to see. It doesn't. I read it and read it. It doesn't make reference to what size a double garage constitutes, because obviously my garage is tiny as a single, but I know other people that have a single garage that I could fit my entire house in. It was just to get an idea of how big that is, and my concern is that is that going to turn into another house later down the line that we've seen in the past? That's just a concern, but obviously it was just to get a gauge of how big it is, because obviously the neighbours were not impressed that they all wanted to do it.
Okay, Trevor, who's going to answer that? Is it Graham?
Convener, that's me. Yes, thank you. I don't have the exact dimensions, but typically, well, the floor space of the proposed new garage is 35 square meters, so it's very much of a double car standard, and you know, it's located to the side of the dwelling house, so it looks like a garage. It is a garage, so I think local residents' concerns are maybe slightly unfounded.
No, that's fine. I was just, it would be useful in future if we're allowed to, if they can put measurements like that, just kind of rough floor plans. It's just obviously what I consider a double garage could be very different to someone else, and obviously it allows us to better ascertain what the deal is and how that would affect the local residents. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Recommendations of Grant, so that's agreed.
Agreed.
Final item is planning enforcement appeals decision there for noting.
Agreed.
Right, thank you very, very much for your attendance. And if you want to hang about for the LRB, thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Chair.
I'll just let those that are not going to be on this meeting exit first of all before we start. Okay. Okay, College, welcome to the local review of body meetings, the first meeting of 2022. Thank you for your attendance. I'm moving straight on. First of all, the declaration of interest. Mark?
I've not received prior notification of any declarations, Chair. I don't know if any of the members have got a declaration before we go to the first application.
Okay, anyone, any declaration, anybody declaring interest in any of these three items that are coming up? Doesn't look like it. Okay, moving on. Apologies, Mark. I know there'll be a couple more. I see Councillor Stubbs has put an apology in, but is there any others that we can say that we didn't have at the planning meeting?
No, there's not. I know some have left the meeting, Chair, and I'll note them in the minute if they're not on.
Sure, excellent. Okay, moving on to item 2 is the planning application 21/00/111/FUL, which is a single dwelling house, stable and horse paddock, including associated infrastructure, landscaping, access and parking, site to the rear of Gartness, Cottage Bauhaus, Bray Road, Airdrie. I apologise if I didn't get that right. It's from pages 5 to 214 with a decision notice you'll see on page 7 to 10. We'll take Gordon, you're going to take us through the procedures, which is obviously what you can see there. First of all, procedures on page 5. That's what we'll go through on the Gordon Lang, you're going to
Yes, that's correct, Councillor. Thank you very much.
fire ahead.
Good morning, members. As councillors already explained, this is planning application 21/0011FUL. Your papers at pages 7 to 214 contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation responses, representations, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The conveners described the development and the site location. The application site is located in the Greenbelt area. Oh, apologies, I've just got a CPU message, so my script disappeared from in front of me. I'll try again. The application site is located in the Greenbelt area, with the closest settlement being Gardeness due south. Immediately north and east are a number of individual houses, with fields to the south and west. The site would be accessed from Borehouse Bray Road. Your photographs and map extracts in pages 195 to 214 include the location plan and photographs showing the site and its setting, with aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context within the wider area, as well as the existing and proposed layout plans, floor plans and elevations for the proposal. I'll now hand back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Okay, thanks for that, Gordon. Gordon, if we're agreed, we'll move on to stage 2 if we've determined we have enough information to carry on. Colleagues, agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you, convener. I'll now outline briefly the proposal, policy position, consultations and application for review without a pause before handing back to the convener. The proposed 4-bedroom house would provide ground and first floor accommodation within a 1 3/4 story high east wing and a single story building projecting towards the west to provide further ground floor accommodation. This would be augmented by a stable, 2-horse paddocks and garden ground. Details being provided that buildings have been arranged into a farmsteading with protected courtyard. Proposed buildings are set back from the road and partially hidden by trees, hedges, and parking hidden by multiple natural screens that are proposed by the applicant. I'll now proceed to highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's report of handling on pages 137 to 142 of your papers to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of the case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017, and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. A local plan map extract is on your papers at page 214, and the relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan and associated guidance are detailed in pages 167 to 194 of your papers, and briefly they can be summarised as policies NBE 3A, assessing development in the Greenbelt and Rural Investment Area Greenbelt, policy DSP 2 on location of development, and policy DSP 4 on quality of development. Guidance associated with the plan, supplementary planning guidance 07, assessing development in the Greenbelt, is also listed as material in the report of handling. Planning Officer's report of handling considered that the proposal did not comply with the North Lanarkshire Local Plan, as it would constitute inappropriate development within the Greenbelt without justification and would not meet design and roads related criteria. Report of handling recommends that the proposal should be refused for the reason, justification and reasons for refusal, which are set out on pages 8 and 9 of your papers. The application was subsequently refused on the 25th of August 2021. I'll now proceed to highlight other considerations noted in the report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of the case. Excuse me. In terms of consultation was carried out with NLC Roads and Transportation, who recommended refusal of the application for reasons related to access and achieving appropriate standards. NLC Pollution Control, Scottish Water and the Coal Authority had no objection to the proposal, subject to conditions to be attached to any approval or notes to be attached to any approval. Consultation responses are located in pages 143 to 155 of your papers. There were 5 representations in relation to this application, which are at pages 156 to 166 of your papers, and can be summarised as objecting to the proposal on the basis of the previous site history, Greenbelt policy not permitting residential developments, roads and access issues, design and site layout, potential sunlight daylight issues, and drainage and sewerage concerns. These matters were assessed and summarised in the report of handling that I referred to previously. The applicant has submitted a review statement and supporting documents in pages 11 to 136 of your papers. The statement expresses, in summary, the applicant's view that the proposal is small scale and within a cluster, although I should point out that justification related to clusters is for the rural investment area section of Greens and not the green belt, but that would be a matter for members to consider its materiality. The applicant also states that the site has clearly defined and defensible boundaries. The proposal is residential and not commercial in nature and will use and improve an existing access. A full access appraisal addressing those issues has been appended as part of the review statement. Proposal would be suitable in terms of opportunities for generation of heat and power that are proposed within the applicant's proposal. The buildings will be screened and in the form of a farmsteading, and the applicant's family has a long history of living in the local area, and the home will cater for an elderly parent. That's a brief summary of the submission from the applicant. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with the policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which require to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. And I'll now hand back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, and any questions members may have before taking a decision and providing a reasoned justification for that decision. Thanks, convener.
Okay, Gordon, thank you for that. Any questions for the officer? Anyone? Sophia, do you want in?
Yes. It's basically, was there any, this was in before, and I don't believe there was any objections last time from Rhodes or that. It's just that's a question, that's the first question, if you don't mind. And obviously there's other aspects in that on page 25 that they basically can make use of an existing safe access onto Bauhaus Bray Road, which had planning permission for a stable. And obviously this isn't for, I take it, we're reading through this isn't for actually selling and social housing or anything. It's actually for a mother who has dementia and Alzheimer's. Also, it's to provide livery accommodation for the horses and the ponies that she's already got, and especially when it's got health issues. I don't know what the problem with this one is. I can't see a problem with this one. And I can clearly see on the map that's in the papers that there is a defined area for boundary, and it's only a small portion, and they had planning permission before with no objections.
Sophia, is there a question amongst all that?
Yes, the question was there any objections last time? Was it when it was at? Why is there now?
Gordon?
I wouldn't comment on any previous application. Each application is assessing its own merits. I am aware that a previous application for a dwelling house, from my recollection, was refused at LRB. But as I say, each application would be considered on its own merits. This application is for a residential development with associated stables, and would it be considered on that basis?
Okay. Alan, you were in?
Thanks, Convener. It was just to ask, I see that it was quite a detailed paperwork and assessments done by the McGregor Traffic Solutions. Now, I don't see our roads making any comment regarding the new Airdrie bypass road that will clearly take the vehicles away from that. Now, I'm just wondering if our planning department / roads department actually took that into consideration, the future development there's going to be, and especially regarding this Airdrie Link Road that'll take traffic off this road. Thanks.
Anyone can answer that?
I wouldn't comment on that. It's not for me to advise on what roads have considered or not considered. Suffice to say, I'm aware the appellant has raised that. As far as I am aware, the final line and no applications have been submitted for the link road. It remains a proposal. That may be, and I only suggest that may be why the roads department have not commented upon it in any detail. But that would be a matter for members to arrive at a conclusion on, and the materiality of the potential of that road to affect this development or any other development.
Can I come back in, convener?
Well, just reminding that it's not an item for consideration on this application as the answer's been given there. So what is your next question?
I totally get that, convener. However, I mean, we're offered this Airdrie Link Road is going to bring major development to the area, and it's going to affect this road. There appears little doubt about that. I'm just concerned that we don't look at our planning / roads department are not looking at the big picture where development is coming into the area. That was my comment. Thanks.
Agreed on that.
Okay, thanks for that comment. Is any other observations or questions we have? Sorry, I hear a voice there, but I can't see who it is.
Bill, it's me, it's Michael
Coyle.
Michael
Coyle. Right, okay, Bill, thanks very much. The last time this application came up, Councillor Douglas made quite relevant points in this application, and I'm quite sure looking at this application in general, now that they took on board what Councillor Douglas says on that, with the height and all the rest of it. But the major fact is, this application is going to include an elderly person that's got dementia and Alzheimer's. I mean, they're not going to put her into a home. They're going to bring them into their home. And as what Councillor Beveridge said...
Michael, it's irrelevant to this application, and an elected member's comments on a previous application is not relevant either. I would ask you not to bring that kind of stuff in to this. Okay.
Well, the main thing is that this committee...
Formulate a question, please.
Pardon?
Formulate a question, please.
He's going to try, Bill.
Well, the fact is that this application is desperately needed, and I would like to know why the planning department has made references to the roads, objection to this before, because at the end of the day, it wasn't in a previous application.
Well, as you'll know, this is not a planning meeting; it's a local review body meeting. But Gordon, is there anything you can dig out of that?
No, there's nothing I would add to what I said earlier. You've indicated how previous applications were conducted as a matter for those previous applications. It was quite clearly decided that a roads consultation would be carried out in this case, and advice was received, and the application was recommended for refusal and refused on the basis of policy and roads matters. Each case is considered on its own merits.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor McPeak.
Sorry, Chair, I couldn't get unmuted there. Just on, Gordon, on the back of Councillor Beveridge's comments regarding the new Airdrie Link Road, which is several years away, would that make any difference to the key requirements? And this is stated in the reason for the reason for refusal. Would that make any difference to the criteria of DSP 2, DSP 4 and SPG 07 have not been met? Would that make any material difference now to the future development, Gordon?
I couldn't comment on the materiality of the roads issues, but obviously in reading the recommendations and the reasons for refusals, members would have to consider whether they took them in the round, and the fact that the potential road in the future would be sufficient to override the identified policy impediments if the councillors considered that that was not a reason for refusal. However, the policy matters would still remain. So there are two matters at play here. On my consideration, but it's for members to make their own judgment that there are policy reasons that have been given for a refusal, and there are detailed design reasons in terms of the design of the proposal should it be accepted, and there are roads reasons for refusal which relate to the access. Now, any or all of those can be taken in conjunction with each other by members. It's for members to decide for themselves the materiality of each and whether there is sufficient information there to override any policy impediment that members in their reading of the policy feel that exists in terms of this application. And hopefully that's an explanation of the various different parts of the recommendation and the various different issues that members may wish to consider when they're looking at this application.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Gordon. I see Alan wants back in again. Is there anyone else wanting in before Alan back in has been in already? No, Alan, on you go.
Thanks, Savina. It was just regarding Councillor McPake's point here. The road is a couple of years away, but they have actually started. The development has started. They're on the ground. They're digging holes. Now, I'm very disappointed here because this will obviously, I mean, you don't need to be a roads engineer to realise that this new road is going to have an impact on this and on this Bowhouse Road here. So I'm very disappointed that was not brought in here by a roads department in relation to this. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. Is there any other observations or comments? Anyone before we move to decision to be taken? No. Okay, so moving to a decision, I'm going to move the paper, which is, you can see it was a decision notice taken from page 7 to 10. I'll move refusal. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Who's that? That's Alec. Alex seconded that for me. Okay.
Me.
Anyone otherwise minded?
Move Grant, Chair.
That's Sophia's moved Grant. Have you got a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Seconded by Alan Beveridge. Mark, will you move to a vote, please? Thanks.
Thanks, Convener. Prior to moving to the vote, it would be a requirement of those moving Grant to put forward the material
Sorry, my
consideration.
apologies. I should have asked that.
The loss of a move Grant, Chair. The loss of a small site within the Greenbelt does not adversely affect the aims and objectives of what the wider blanket Greenbelt designation and the policy outlined in SPP seeks to achieve. It will not set precedent.
Okay, Mark, is that okay?
Happy to defer to my colleague Gordon if you think that would meet a material consideration, Gordon.
The member has suggested that they feel there's justification for a small incursion into the Greenbelt. I think that I would recognise that as a consideration that material information outweighs the policy.
So we can get over the line then if that's the case. A seconder, please.
Alan
sorry, my apologies. I remember that.
That's okay, but I'll let you off for that.
Right. Okay, it's a new year, right? Okay, let's move on to the vote then. Mark, on you go.
So just to clarify to elected members that the motion is to uphold the decision of the service and refuse the application. The amendment is to grant an application. And just bear with me, elected members, because there's quite a few members not on the meeting. So let me just work through it. So Councillor Anderson is not on the meeting. Councillor Beveridge.
Amendment.
Councillor Burgess.
Amendment.
Councillor Michael Coyle.
Amendment.
Councillor Sophia Coyle.
Amendment.
Councillor Curran.
Motion.
Councillor Douglas.
Motion.
Councillor Goldsack.
Amendment.
Councillor Graham's not on the meeting. Councillor Tom Johnston. Sorry, I didn't hear that, Councillor. I'm not getting that, Councillor Johnson. I don't know if you're still on. You're on mute, Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Johnson, can you put it on the screen at the side then? Maybe it'd be better for us if we can't get through.
Well, what I'll do, Councillor Johnson, are you looking to go for the motion, or are you looking to go for the amendment? amendment. Right, I've got that. Thank you, Councillor Johnston. I don't believe Councillor Kelly is on the meeting. Councillor Lennon?
Motion, Mark.
Thank you. Councillor Logue, I don't believe is on the meeting. Councillor McGregor's not on the meeting. Councillor McGowan?
Amendment.
Councillor McKendrick is not on the meeting. Councillor McLaren?
Motion.
Councillor McManus?
Amendment.
Councillor McPake?
Motion.
Councillor McVeigh?
Motion.
Councillor Quigley?
Motion.
Councillor Redding?
Motion.
Councillor Shields?
Motion.
Councillor Stubbs is an apology. And finally, Councillor Watson.
A motion.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. After the vote, the motion to refuse the application has attracted 10 votes. The amendment to grant an application has attracted 8 votes. Therefore, the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, colleagues, moving on to item 3, which is planning application 21/01458 FUL. It's a 1.5 storey dwelling land to the rear of 8 Bowling Green Road, Christon. And you can see decision was taken with page 217 to 220. And Gordon, you're back in again.
Yes, that's correct, Convener. Thank you very much. Your papers at pages 215 to 322 contain the decision notice, the notice of review, the delegated report, consultation responses, representations, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The convener's already advised members of what the proposal was, with the location being land to the rear of 8 Bowling Green Road, Christon. The site is a flat site located to the rear of 8 Bowling Green Road, Christon. To the north, east and south of the site are residential properties, and to the west, across Bowling Green Road, but behind fencing is an area of open space and a children's nursery. Photographs and map extracts on pages 309 to 322 show the location plan and photographs showing the site and its setting, and aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the existing and proposed layout plans, floor plans and elevations. Members will note on page 224 of your papers the applicant has requested a site inspection to review the wider context and relationship to adjacent buildings. Additionally, I would like to point out to Convener and to members that matters relating to consultation that was carried out with NLC Roads and Transportation, who, as you will note on page 265 of your papers, recommended refusal of the applications for reasons related to access and achieving appropriate standards. The reason I'm raising this is that response was not referenced in the report of handling and was not part of considerations at the time, as it was not received prior to the preparation of the report and the issuing of a decision. It was, however, received shortly after that, and it's contained in these papers for completeness as it's dated 1 day before the report of handling was completed. And members would have to consider what weight, if any, this should have in their considerations. If members do decide that this matter, this objection and roads matters are material to their decision, I would recommend the applicant should be given an opportunity to respond before the final decision is made, but it is for members to decide both on the request for a site visit and also whether the roads consultation is material to the decision that they are about to take. I'll now hand back to Convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing and any discussion on those points that I've raised.
Okay, Gordon, thanks for that. As taken through stage 1, if we're happy, we'll move to stage 2 and stage 3. One before we move, colleagues, can check and see if you're not on mute. I can hear some feedback coming from a few of the members. Can you check your microphones and make sure you're on mute whilst the officer is speaking? Thank you very much. Gordon.
Right, thanks, Convener. I'll now briefly outline the proposal of policy position, consultations and documents relating to the application for review. As previously stated by the Convener, the applications for a 1.5 storey 2-bedroom house with garden and off-street parking on a plot of land which was previously part of the rear garden of 8 Bowling Green Road, Christen. Site lies within a residential area to the north of Christen Local Centre. Now going to highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the Planning Officer's Report of Handling. That's pages 261 to 264 of your papers, to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017, and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. Local Plan map extracts on your papers on page 322. Relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan and associated guidance are detailed in pages 305 to 307 of your papers and can be briefly summarised or listed as follows. The relevant policies identified are HCF1, protecting residential amenity and community facilities, policy DSP4, quality of development, and related guidance is the open space guidelines, space around dwellings. Planning Officer's Report of Handling considered that the proposed development would be contrary to local plan policy and would fail to integrate successfully nor properly reflect the established character of the area within which it was proposed. Report of Handling recommended proposal should be refused for the reason justification and then the reasons for refusal on pages 218 and 219 of your papers. The application was subsequently refused permission on the 12th of November 2021. I'll now briefly highlight other considerations noted in the Planning Officer's Report of Handling or raised in the review application for to assist you in assessment and determination of the case. In relation to consultations, obviously I've made reference to a late consultation response that was received by Roads and Transportation and would be for members to consider in terms of its materiality if that was the case. In terms of representations, there were 3 representations in relation to the application on pages 266 to 293 of your papers, and these can briefly be summarised as objecting to the proposal on the basis of previous site history, roads, parking and access issues, design and site layout, potential sunlight and daylight issues, and matters around Japanese knotweed management. The applicant submitted a review statement and supporting document, which is on pages 221 to 260 of your papers. The statement expresses in summary the applicant's view that policy HCF only relates to controlling non-residential development. The open space guidelines should be applied flexibly and are a reference point for such developments when considering development of individual plots or infill developments in existing town centres. There are other developments in the area which do not comply with the open space guidelines. The proposal is well designed and relates well to the wider context and character of the area. As is required by the regulations, people who made representations were advised of this review, and a further 3 representations were received on pages 294 to 301 in response to that submission. Briefly, they state that policy HCF1A does apply to residential proposals. They restate their concerns regarding adherence to the open space guidelines, design matters and setting a precedent for development, and generally seek to rebut matters raised in the review statement regarding design, the status of the land and non-planning matters such as ownership history. The applicant subsequently responded to those representations, and that response is on pages 302 and 303 of your papers. The applicant, again, seeking to rebut the points raised in the further representation and stating that there is no Japanese knotweed on the site. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of those policies. These are the factors and issues which are required to be considered by the local review body when determining this application. I now hand back to you, Convener, for agreement on the policy position, the material considerations and any questions members may have before a decision and reasoned justification is arrived at. Thank you.
Okay, Gordon, thank you for that. Any questions from any of the members for the officer? I don't see anything coming from anyone. No hands going up, nothing in the chat bar, so I'm going to move to a decision then. I'll move the decision which was refused on page 217 to 20. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
I'll second that. Seconded by
McLaren.
John McLaren. Thanks, John. Anyone otherwise minded? No. So decision is taken to refuse. Thank you very much. Move on to item 4, and it's the planning application 21/00687/FUL. It's a 2-storey side extension at 11 Kent Road, Uddingston. And I'll not steal any thunder this time, so it's Eddie McClenaghan, if I've got that name right. Eddie, you're here to speak on that.
Thanks, convener. Yes, I am. As the convener's outlined, the application number is 21/00687/FUL. Your papers contain the decision notice, notice of review, delegated report, consultation response, policy extracts, and map and photographic slides. The application site is the side curtilage of a detached dwelling house in a well-established residential area of Uddingston. Your photographs and map extracts on pages 343 to 358 show the location plan and site photographs, which show the site and its setting and include aerial shots of the site to give a better appreciation of its context, as well as the existing and proposed layout plans, floor plans, and elevations. I'll hand you back to the convener for a decision on proceeding with the hearing.
Okay, colleagues, as procedure, if we feel we have enough information to continue to stage 2 and stage 3, agreed? Don't have any disagreement, I don't think so. Let's move on.
Thanks, convener. I'll now briefly outline the proposal, policy position, consultations, and application for review. The proposal is for a 2-storey side extension that would extend 4.9 metres from the side elevation. The roof incorporates a hip roof design and measures 6.95 metres to the ridge and 5.4 metres to the eaves. The materials proposed would match that of the original dwelling. The ground floor level of the extension would accommodate space for a garage area, and the first floor level would accommodate space for a larger bedroom, bathroom, walk-in wardrobe, and ensuite. I'll now highlight the policy criteria and factors noted in the planning officer's report of handling found on pages 335 to 337 of your papers to assist the local review body in its assessment of the determination of this case. In terms of planning policy, the application raises no strategic issues in terms of the Clyde Plan Strategic Development Plan 2017 and therefore can be assessed in terms of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012. A local plan map extract is in your papers at page 359. The relevant policies in the North Lanarkshire Local Plan are detailed on pages 341 and 342 of your papers and can be summarised as follows. HCF1, protecting residential amenity and community facilities, and DSP4, quality of development. The planning officer's report of handling considered that the proposed development did not comply with the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012 due to the scale and massing of the proposals and the impact in sunlight, daylight to the window on the front elevation of number 13, which sits east of the application site. The report of handling recommends that the proposed extension should be refused for the reasons outlined in page 337 of your papers and the reason for refusal on pages 326 and 327 of your papers. The application was subsequently refused planning permission on the 14th of September 2021. I will now highlight the other considerations noted in the planning officer's report of handling or raised in the review application to assist the local review body in its assessment and determination of this case. In terms of consultation was carried out with NLC Pollution Control, who advised that suitable steps would be required to be taken to ensure that any measures previously provided in connection with the building in relation to contaminated land remediation are not damaged or compromised during construction. In addition, if gas preclusion measures were incorporated into the original building, then the same measures should also be incorporated into any proposed works. This matter is covered by an advice note to the applicant. The consultation response is on pages 339 and 340 of your papers. There are no other representations in relation to this application. In terms of the review, The applicant has submitted a review statement on pages 329 to 332 of your papers. The statement expresses in summary the applicant's view that the planning officer's reasoning for refusal is inaccurate. The proposed extension will sit back 1200 millimetres from the front elevation and starts where the existing fence line sits. The existing roof overshadows the house at number 13 because of the full height gable on the front of the house, and the new extension will have no significant impact. The applicant has provided photographic evidence to support their claim that you can see the shadows cast by number 11 in the evening sun, and this is contained in page 334 of your papers. As with all applications, each case requires to be considered on its own merits and in accordance with policy, unless material considerations outweigh the provisions of the policies. These are the factors and issues which require to be considered by the local review body when determining the application. I'll now hand you back to the convener for agreement on the policy position, material considerations, any questions members may have, and the decision and reasoned justification. Thanks, convener.
Thanks, Eddie. Any observations, questions for the officer? Anyone?
Chair.
Sophia?
Chair, this one's a wee bit confusing to me, considering obviously it says it's noted that in these areas an extension to an existing residential dwelling house is acceptable in principle, subject to detailed assessment. I honestly, when looking down this papers, there's no objections from any neighbours, which you think if the planning saying about privacy, shadowing or whatever, it seems as if there's no objections to any neighbours. They're trying to do a side extension and it's not any houses that they're building, it's a side extension. And I don't see this being contrary to any policy. It seems as if they're trying to put conditions in place to suit the planning to get this done. And they're saying obviously the sunlight and daylight, which they're saying they have met every condition. I don't know why the planning's kind of not putting conditions in place and letting this go ahead with conditions that they find acceptable if they've not met them. I don't see a problem with this, and I think this one should be.
Sophia, yeah. We take what you're saying, but do you have a question?
The question is, why are we not putting conditions in place if this is acceptable? They've noted an extension to an existing residential dwelling house is acceptable. So why, if they're not meeting certain conditions, why are we not putting conditions on when they seem as if they're trying to accommodate and they're meeting conditions?
Guys, you get a response to
that? Convener, the officer has undertaken a daylight sunlight test, which they conclude the application has failed with respect to the extension, and on that basis they recommend refusal. It's not for the planning department to come up with a design. It's the design that's been put in by the applicant, and that's been assessed by the officer. And in this case, it's been deemed to have an unacceptable impact on the amenity of the neighbouring dwelling.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other questions from anyone? Last chance. I don't see anything come from any of the rest of the members, so we'll move to a decision. And I, as a convener, will move the decision which was taken at the time on page 325 to 328. Could I have a seconder?
Convener.
Seconded by Alan McVeigh. And is anyone otherwise minded?
Chair, sorry to be a pest. I would say that it's move grant. It's not controversial to the policy.
And the reasons for that you're putting forward there, Mark, is that suitable?
Chair, in this instance, that would not be suitable to say it's not controversial with the policy. I think the policy position set out within the report of handling and the decision notice is clear that there's a significant negative impact on the levels of available sunlight entering the window of the front elevation of 13 Kent Road. So if there was a material consideration that Councillor Coyle wished to put forward, then that would be considered. Thank you.
Sophia, have you got a material consideration that you could put forward as an amendment, please?
Does this one count, Mark? It does comply with the North Lanarkshire Local Plan 2012 and wouldn't result in a negative impact on the plan.
Well, I think to just to clarify that it's clear in both the report of handling and the decision notice that the proposal was contrary to policies HCF 1A and DSP 4 of the North Lanarkshire Local Plan, so it doesn't comply with the policy. I think what Councillor Coyle was alluding to, that in principle that a dwelling house was not contrary to the policy. This particular proposal, and it's clear in both documents, is contrary to both parts of the plan. Thank you, convener.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, Mark, so basically, in other words, that they would have to redo the drawings, basically to comply with policy.
That I couldn't comment on, Councillor Coyle.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, what I'm just trying to say, and I'm certainly not prohibiting you putting forward an amendment, but there would need to be a material consideration put forward in that amendment for that to be put forward. Thank you.
Sophia, I'll give you a last stab at it for something that's relevant if you want to.
I would say the proposal, I'll give it a last go. The proposal raises no strategic issues and requires is going with policies HCF 1A and DSP 4.
In your
So I'd move
opinion,
that.
yeah. Mark, again.
In terms of that, I might need to kind of go to the advice of the kind of planning officer on this one. But I think if we go back to the first part of the process of the local review body, I think that if you look at the procedure, is that the local review body at that stage, when they had an opportunity to where the policy position was not clear and accepted the policy position. But in this instance, as I'm not a planner convener, I would maybe defer to my planning colleagues just to clarify that.
Anybody in the planning college, if you've got something that may assist us with this?
In terms of it, it's clear that it needs to be material considerations outweigh the policy position. So it would need to be something of materiality that the councillors or the councillor feels would outweigh the position that it's contrary to that policy. Other than that, I can't really offer any further clarity.
Sophia, we agreed the policy at the start before we moved to item 2 and 3, so we can't really backtrack on that. So I think you've had it as regards using that as an amendment coming forward. So I'm going to move I already have moved the decision, which is in page 325 to 328, which is to refuse. If I don't have anything relevant, then I'm concluding the meeting that has been refused. Okay. Right. Thank you, colleagues. There's no more business in front of us, so I thank you for your attendance.
Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.